Okay everyone, so why should you invest in the US S&P or indeed the total stock market index, even if you're not American like myself? Now there's two or three main reasons I think why you should do it. Now number one, the US markets are the most innovative market in the world in terms of stock markets. Now if you think about it, some of the biggest Chinese firms, Indian firms or whatever, they actually IPO in the United States. So say for example Alibaba, a huge Chinese company. I mean, Jack Ma is probably the richest Chinese person now, but they actually IPO'd in the United States. Now, in addition to that, most of the investors in the S&P are now institutional investors, meaning banks and hedge funds and so on. Only about 10% are individual investors. Now, why does this matter? Now, in a small market, like say, even China, even though it's a huge market in terms of GDP, the Shanghai Composite is a small market compared to the US S&P. In other words, the capitalization is quite small. So most of the investors are like normal, everyday people, teachers, doctors, nurses, whatever, individual people. Of course, there are banks and hedge funds as well. But the thing is, in that market, it's more likely you'll see the market absolutely shoot up or also go down. If you actually look at some emerging markets, whether it's China, Colombia, Chile, whatever, you'll see some years the market's going up by 60%, some years it's falling by 60%. The Chinese market is one of the only markets that's gone down in the last 12 years because essentially individual investors have kind of lost, you could say, some faith in the market. Whereas in the US market, where there's more institutional guys, the banks, the hedge funds, whatever, it almost acts as like a stabilizer. Like when markets went down in December, a lot of the institutions bought back in at cheaper prices. So I would say that the developed markets, where more of the investors are actually institutional, only about 10% of the money are individual investors, is on average more safe. And let's not forget, as a final point as well, because the US have performed well, at least the stock market's performed well now for a couple of hundred years, in the case of the Dow and the Dow's predecessor, and then subsequently the S&P since it's been existing, it gives people confidence that one day the market will always come back even during falls. Whereas a lot of the newer markets that are out there, a lot of people don't have the same faith in the market going up. And so for all of those reasons, I would say you should have the S&P or the total stock market index in your portfolio, even if you're not Americans. Okay, everyone, have a nice day.